Hi everyone, welcome to our segment on sleep. I'm Jimmy Rosario for Sweatshop Fitness. Today we are answering a few questions about few of our clients who have asked us about sleep. Okay, so it's not just about beauty sleep, but also we talk about athletes needing a lot of rest. So in addition to rest, sleep is also a deeper stage of rest. So lots of people don't realize how exactly big this impact on sleep has on your health, but also on an athletic ability. Okay, so it's always very easy to put an early alarm or stay up at night and trying to put in your workouts, do late workouts, or really start early morning so that you don't have to think about your workout for the rest of the day. But sleep can come at a cost. Okay, so one is lots of people think that doing a workout in the morning you can cram all the rest of your work within the day, and you don't think about how you're going to kind of manage your stressful day. So you always think you can sort out the workout in the morning and the rest of the day you're fine. Okay, so those sleep recommendations, they're highly individualized. Nobody needs the same amount, but if you can keep it between 7 and 9 hours, that would be really good. So if you consistently sleep less than 6 hours, okay, you can have lots of side effects. We're going to talk about those also in our second video, but today what we're going to talk about is understanding our sleep cycles. So it's not quite clear why we need all the sleep cycles, but they are thought to be very important. So as we age, we actually get less deep sleep. Okay, not just sleep, but deep sleep. Okay, at about 20 years old, about 20% of our deep sleep, but by about say after retirement around 70 years, it's sometimes as low as 1 to 2%. So that's really low. Okay, stage 1 of sleep, as in this image, is the lightest period and is very brief. Okay, it's essential that during this period that it's essentially the period you're falling asleep. So when you are still awake and sleeping and you're going into that stage. Okay, so it's very important during this time not to use any electronic devices and phones and get any screen time. So stage 2 in this image is where we spend most of the night. Heart rate slows down, the body temperature drops. Okay, if you see that in stage 2. Stage 3 is the very deep sleep, typically about 30%. 1/3 of the night is spent in deep sleep. Okay, so stage 4 is where deep sleep continues, when it's the most difficult to rouse us, when it's really difficult to wake you up. Okay, stage 3 and 4 are when the body repairs muscle and tissues. Okay, so when you do a workout, what we always tell people is as soon as you finish your workout, you're actually tearing or damaging your muscles. Then you have to go home or somewhere and quickly get the nutrition into your system, and then you rest it. And that's very important that you get those 3 steps. Okay, workout, nutrition, and then rest. So like I said, the last stage is the REM or rapid eye movement, where you hit your first REM cycles, about 90 minutes of sleep. They go around every 90 minutes during the night. Okay, and these cycles lengthen as the night goes on. So most of our REM sleep happens later. Okay, so then we have the NREM or non-REM sleep. Okay, this is important because different biological processes happen during each sleep cycle, and each is important. So during what we call the slow wave or the deep sleep, there is a clearing out of certain negative or detrimental chemicals or compounds in your brain. Okay, so that's why we stop sleeping resets your brain. That's what they usually talk about. So there's a correlation between accumulation of these types of proteins and dementia. So it's very important. You have bad memory and you're very messed up after a night of bad sleep. Okay, and also there's a growth hormone. So during the highest levels of sleep, you secrete a growth hormone. Okay, and a lack of slow wave sleep has been linked to fibromyalgia, and it's a lowering of the pain threshold. So what happens is, you sleep more, you can push a bit harder during workouts and during weights. Okay, so non-REM sleep is also thought to be important for memory consolidation, like we spoke about earlier, with connected to dementia. So this is when skills you've learned, for example, how to play an instrument or a sport, they move into long-term memory. So it changes into for a skill like passing a certain ball or playing a cricket shot. If you have good rest, it becomes hardwired, long-term program. Okay, now we're going to talk about the benefits of REM sleep. Okay, so rapid eye movement. Okay, REM that helps us maintain emotional stability. So mood swings, both male and female, and this is where your brain processes memories and experiences. Okay, so that can go negative. It's also when most dreams occur. So if you don't wake up during a dream, then your most likely you won't remember it. And if you're not awake for more than 5 minutes during the night, then you don't remember it either. Okay, so that's very important that you get good sleep. Okay, when it comes to performance, sleep is necessary for us to recover and for our muscles to adapt to all the work they've done exercising. Okay, so recently a study found that the best indicator of VO2 max was the average amount of sleep over the period before. So for example, if your sleep was better in August than July, your VO2 max also will be better. And the lack of sleep the night before accurately impacts your performance in a time to exhaustion test. So for example, if you have good rest, the time to exhaustion, we'll just take something basic like a beep test, which we can do for you. You do it after a good night's rest and a bad night's rest, you can really see visible results. Okay, and also an extended period, like if you have night shifts or a funeral or things like that, extended period of not sleeping can have bigger health impacts, like even chronic insomnia. So people who have night shifts have a big insomnia problem. We are helping a few of our clients also right now with insomnia. In fact, it has been linked to an increased risk of depression, anxiety and similar disorders. Okay, so more trips to the emergency room and also a higher risk of car accidents. So I know this through experience. 10 years ago, 10 years and 6 months ago, after I stayed up at a party and stayed up at a funeral, and the third night in a row I fell asleep at the wheel 400 meters from home. I had a very bad accident. Luckily we didn't lose anyone, but it was very dangerous. So because also when you're asleep you can drive straight into something. It's not like even under the influence of alcohol you can still dodge. You can see a vehicle oncoming or a lamp post or a train or something and you can still avoid an accident. But in sleep you go straight into that because you are in zero consciousness. So people who suffer from chronic insomnia are also 10 times more likely to miss work. Okay, so if you work on lots of projects that involve a lot of screen time and concentration, you have to be very, very focused on getting your 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Okay, sleep is a part of your nutrition. Okay, look at sleep as your carbohydrate, protein, hydration or fat intake. It's that important. But many of us don't sleep enough. As important as people think that they can cut corners on their diet, they also cut corners on their sleep. Okay, quality sleep is just as important as quantity. So if you say like 30% of adults have intermittent insomnia and sleep issues. Okay, lots of people who have switched from doing their cardio in the night tend to stay up longer at night because you're energized. Okay, versus the morning where you're energized but you have things to do. But in the night you're energized and you have nothing to do. Okay, you need to rest. And 10% have actually chronic insomnia, which means that it lasts for 3 months or longer. So it can be, especially in the West, it's a public health issue. So tips for falling asleep and staying asleep we're going to talk about. Okay, if you look at these points, the first step to sleeping well is improving your sleep habit. Okay, we call this sleep hygiene. So you get rid of your tabs, your phones, your laptops, the TV at least an hour before bed. This is very important, especially for kids. Okay, and get rid of the blue spectrum of light. So sometimes you have glasses or settings on devices that have this that can eliminate the blue or switch off the blue spectrum. Okay, so it's a bright light and blue light. It decreases natural melatonin production as well, so that aids your sleep. Okay, so obviously this is the standard stuff is avoid stimulants like the coffee late in the evening. Okay, sometimes some people can stay up during coffee for about 5 hours if they have it late. Okay, cold medicine and nicotine also kind of tend to keep you awake. Okay, some people say that alcohol is not it's not a stimulant. It can still cause arousal during the night and it can make you wake up repeatedly. Although this usually has different effects on people. Some people personally think that they sleep better after alcohol, but it messes up your REM and NREM sleep. Okay. Also, if you can take a hot shower, ideally as your body is cooling off, then it also can make you drowsy. This can work either way. Some people sleep better after cold showers because if they have an evening workout, you need a cold shower to make your muscles, help your muscles recover. Okay. Then maintain a regular sleep schedule, waking up, going to bed at the same time, always at the same. So my personal time is 10 p.m. because I sometimes need to wake up for our morning sessions at sometimes around 5 o'clock. So by 10 p.m. latest 10:15 I'm out. Okay, because like we explained earlier, your body produces melatonin. So naturally in conjunction with your regular schedule. So melatonin is produced at a certain time. If you play around with that time, the production also gets disrupted. Okay, then avoid taking naps during the day for some people. Okay, if you're really tired and if you messed up your sleep cycle, don't take a nap during the day because you have already covered up. So you can stay up later because you had a nap in the day. Okay, some people say that they sleep better in the night if they take a nap in the day. Experiment with that. Okay, limit the amount of time you're in bed without sleeping. So if you're reading on your phone and stuff, but you're in bed, try to do it on a chair. Sleeping with a pet can also be destructive. Some people sleep with their cats and their dogs. It's like they also move around. So it's almost as bad as sleeping with your partner who snores, has a snoring problem. Okay. The other point is expose yourself to bright light when you get up. Okay. So if you can have your window open and the sunlight will you'll be exposed to the sunlight as soon as you wake up, that would be really good. Okay, the final point is to make sure that your bedroom is dark, quiet and cool. Okay, so 65 to 70 Fahrenheit, so around 24 degrees centigrade is a pretty good temperature. Okay, you can have the curtains, obviously you can have external lights in the night that have been directed through the windows of your room. You'll have to kind of block that, but that will be difficult when you need the light to flow in the morning. Okay, it has to be quiet. Obviously, if you live near a busy street and your bedroom is facing the road, then you're going to have a problem. So you'll have to change the location of your bedroom. And cool. So if you have a problem, especially these days with mosquitoes, and you have you can't keep the windows open, then your room is going to be a bit hot. Ideally, if you can have air conditioning, that's the best. That will be really good. If not, you ideally can stay directly under a fan. Okay, and there are also sleep aids that can be helpful through these medication. Okay, so there are some drugs. Obviously, we need to see a sleep therapist and get those drugs, but none of the over-the-counter drugs are ideal. Try and get a doctor to prescribe something, and then that should help you. Most of that melatonin is a natural sleep aid, and it can help you, like I said earlier, to initiate sleep, and it also help reset your clock once it gets disrupted. There is very little downside, but most people find it on a chronic basis its effectiveness wears also on a chronic, as in long-term basis. So if you're having sleep problems, the first step is to have a sleep study done and to see a doctor who actually specializes in sleep issues. So I got my dad to actually do this, and that also helped him. He actually now sleeps with an assisted rebreather. But since most complaints seem to be very vague, they talk about having trouble sleeping or drowsiness within the day, a sleep study can pinpoint the specific problem. Okay, so many specific problems are actually breathing problems. People actually don't realize apnea, which they talk about, in which you stop breathing briefly, which was what my dad had, can actually cause frequent wake-ups during the night. Okay, it's very common, and he used to snore, so he still snores, and that also causes this problem as well. So if you aren't fully awake and you don't remember it, that's the problem, like we spoke about before. So waking up a lot, it disrupts your sleep, which obviously, and it ultimately makes you very tired. Even in kids, if this happens, this has been linked to ADHD. Okay, and sleep apnea and breathing issues and ADHD, especially in kids, go hand in hand. So mouth breathing, drooling, snoring, grinding the teeth with some children, in addition to having tiredness symptoms, then a sleep study ideally can pinpoint your problem. So another thing here, what we do at Sweatshop Fitness is sleep coaching. Okay, sleep coaching is really does wonders, and a study recently found a group of athletes who had weekly sleep training for 3 months, for 12 weeks, showed improvements in their VO2 max, lactate threshold, ventilatory threshold, and even body composition. So they burn fat, reduce their fat, increase their muscle. Okay, their lungs worked better. The lactic acid buildup was reduced, and so basic performance all around on those 4 factors was increased. Okay, so last but not least is what everybody is asking us: do sleep trackers help? So there are lots of brands out there, from few unknown Chinese brands to a few more brands. One of the famous ones is what they call the Fitbit. Most sleep trackers are really movement trackers. Okay, so even the ones that use heart rate are still in essence they're tracking activity. So when you move around in bed, okay, it's tracking your activity, and that's what actually looks at the sleep. So it's not tracking a full range of physiological markers, what they call it. Okay, so like a real sleep study. But that's still better than nothing. So that it still can be useful to pinpoint any changes. So you have those screenshots, you have that data on your phone. That can actually help if you show it to the sleep specialist or the doctor. Okay, so in movement or activity, if you're having sleep issues, the kind of additional metrics. Yeah? So if you're focusing on it too much or stressing about the numbers, it can actually be counterproductive. Not just with sleep, but even with any activity. So don't always look at your watch and wonder how many steps you need to take. Get that calculation and get that idea out of your head. Okay, so the most important thing is not tracking your sleep, but getting enough sleep. Okay, so keep tuned for a second video that explains more about 4 negative side effects of bad night's sleep. Thank you. Till next time. Bye.